Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very excited for this month's Snack in Chat, which is a reoccurring segment where we come together to discuss topics that are top of mind to adoptive, kin, permanency, and customary care communities in Ontario and beyond. My name is Catherine, and I have the privilege of hosting these chats with professionals, lived experts, and overall just inspiring people within our communities. If you aren't familiar with Interwoven Connections, formerly known as Adopt for Life, we are a not-for-profit charitable organization that provides free peer support, community education, advocacy, and awareness. You can learn more about us and gain valuable resources by ensuring that you both like and follow us on our public Facebook page, or you can go on our website, www.interwovenconnections.ca. I am very honored to have two amazing guests join us this month as we talk about ages and stages, support groups, and more. I'm going to add that in because we're going to be talking about all kinds of different supports and support groups that we have. Now, before we share about how we're going to be using this platform and how to engage with us live, I do want to take pause and acknowledge the lens that we are situated on today. I do understand that we're coming from various places within this beautiful province. So I just ask that you take time to reflect on your personal territory and treaty. I personally reside in the traditional territory of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawesh Unceded First Nation and the Saugeen First Nation within Treaty 18, now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. The reason why we do this is really to reaffirm our commitment and our responsibility in improving relationships between nations, and as a step towards improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures, to recognize and acknowledge both the historic and ongoing devastating effects of colonialism and racism in the name of assimilation across Canada, and how we can each consider in our own way how to action forward in truth and in a spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. As long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the river flows. Now, we do want this to be an engaging and interactive hour. We have two amazing guests who are a plethora of knowledge, so please feel free to comment below. As you can see, you can ask questions, you can engage with what we're talking about, and we'd also love to know where you guys are logging in from. So please feel free to jot down your city in the comments as we go along, even if you're watching this on replay. Please know, however, that this segment is live and it is shared publicly across social media platforms. So really this means that it can be accessed at any time. So we just ask that you remain mindful of any personal or sensitive information, especially information of children or youth who may be in your care. That being said, I am very pleased to introduce two of my esteemed colleagues, Erin and Christine. This is in no particular order. It's just how you guys came up on our Meet Our Team website. So Christine, you're first. Christine is a proud adoptive mother to wow, let me try that again, shall we? Christine is a proud adoptive mother and a child of an adoptee. A former city mouse turned country mouse. She is an Ontario certified teacher with over 10 years experience in the public school system. Christine also has supported the ASD community and brings lived experience with private adoption and openness. She is dedicated to lifelong learning and becoming a better ally. Erin is a proud mother of one who joined her family through public adoption at age 7. She met her son while working as an educational assistant, and she and her wife pursued a child-specific adoption. Erin, who is a child and youth worker with over 10 years of experience in education, mental health, and autism, is passionate about supporting children, youth, and families impacted by child welfare, adoption, and guardianship. She brings both a professional and lived experience, trauma-informed care, therapeutic parenting, and supporting diverse families. I think I butchered your intro, guys, a little bit, so I apologize for that. but that was only like a little clip of who they are. So if you do go on our website and there's like a meet our team option, you can just read more about how incredibly awesome they are. Um, that was a lot of talking on my end. However, the purpose of us chatting today is to get more insights and more understandings of the support groups that Interwoven runs, more specifically the ages and stages groups. Those are kind of a bit newer for us than previous, and there's been a lot of questions. So I'm just going to start shooting out questions, and whoever feels like answering, please feel free to do so. And for those of you watching as well, if you have questions about any of the support groups or the supports that we provide, feel free to jot them down as well in the comments. So can you, one of you, tell us about the various support groups offered by Interwoven Connections, and how do they meet the different needs of our families?
I can start with that one. So we have a large number of different support groups. As you've alluded, we have the ages and stages, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. We have a kinship support group. We have an openness support group for supporting openness. AFCA peer-led support groups. We also have a 2S LGBTQIA+ support group, nurturing attachment. We have a support group specific for dads. So it's called Dad Zone, dads and dad identifying folk. We have a single parent support group, prospective parents, and older caregivers supporting children with FASD. And so we really kind of listened to our community, and as a team, we kind of rallied and saw what the needs were, what people were asking for, what they needed in their lives. And so that's kind of how we based the decision of what types of support groups we were going to be able to offer.
Yeah, and I've noticed, like, I've been with Interwoven for a couple of years, and it's amazing to me that as the community grows and as we start hearing people like, what about this? And it's just important to meet the needs. And I think, and this isn't one of the questions, but I'm going to throw it out there because that's what I like to do. What do you think the benefits are for parents or caregivers who are going to a specific group that they identify with versus like a general support group? Like, do you guys, I'm throwing this at you.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the hot seat, but I'm just wondering, like, have you guys seen, or in the groups that you run, like, have you seen specific benefits from families being able to connect with like-minded or similar situations, families?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were actually chatting about that, Erin and I. Not only do parents just feel seen in the community of other people experiencing, but I know like Erin was chatting about some experiences in groups she's hosted. I'll let you share, Erin, there.
Yeah, I think it was the single parent support group in particular, but it was a lot of like-minded individuals and families that are experiencing similar challenges or like similar just experiences in general, that they were actually able to meet up and like exchange some information through the support group. And so I think that, in a general support group, you might have a few people that have some of those commonalities, but it really is a good fit when everybody's walking in the door kind of in a similar situation. I think it's been really beneficial to kind of divide them up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think, and I might not be coming out the right way, but there's almost like an extra sense of safety and validation if you're showing up into a space that you can see yourself reflected in, whether it's who you are or your family situation. I just think that it is a bit different. And I've noticed that in some of the groups, I've had the chance to kind of sit down on a couple of them, and it's just, you can see there's a level of comfort where people kind of feel like they can share a bit more because they know people who get it. And sensitive topics like AFCA, like people are scared to talk about child and youth violence or aggression towards caregivers and family members. And to have a group where someone's like, this happened, and to have someone else be like, I get it, and this happened to me. So I think it's kind of it's unique, I think, to what we offer for families, but yeah, no, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. Okay, that off the hot seat, we'll go with what we've asked now. So I'm wondering, what was the inspiration behind creating the Ages and Stages support group? Um, and how do they kind of fit into the larger array? So we kind of talked about some of the like specific support groups. I'm wondering if you guys even know like what the benefit or what the reason for changing the support groups to Ages and Stages and how you see that benefiting.
Yeah, so I think we used to do a lot of like regional groups, and what we were finding is you'd have someone come in who's like, I have a teenager and I'm dealing with, high school issues and, social media and dating and all that stuff. And then you'd have someone who's like, I have a baby and you're terrifying me, or like, or they're just dealing through different issues, right? So we just, again, we listened to the community and what was there, and like you talked about the benefits of joining like more specific groups. So I help host the 0 to 5 support group, and in there, like it's so unique because we get to talk about the specific issues. So like, we're all going through toileting, or we've been through it and we can give advice, or sleep issues, figuring out, okay, transition for the crib, or all these different things. The last meeting I had, a few of us just had kiddos start kindergarten, so we could share that experience, right? So yeah, just really like what you said, listening to the community and then bringing in those specific needs. Because when we were doing more broader groups, we just found like, it's always beneficial to learn from people who've been there, done that, but sometimes it's really nice to connect to people like who are in it now, right? And so we just kind of broke down childhood in different stages and different things going on. And yeah, that was kind of the inspiration behind it all. Um, yeah.
That's
And
awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
I really like that we included the stages piece of it too, is because, you know, many of us have children that are chronologically at a very different stage than they are maybe social emotional or developmental. And so being able to have a space where, like when I talk to people about my 10-year-old, like I'm not dealing with the same 10-year-old issues that a lot of families are. And so I think that that's a really nice ability too, is to know that you can go and kind of match that stage that your child's at. I think
That was
that's a
actually
real
going to be
benefit.
that was going to be my next kind of hot seat question. I'm like, wait a minute. The ages and so it's not you have to be this specific age. It's if you feel your child developmentally maybe 10, 12, but may actually fit in the 0 to 5 range, then that might be a good. And I guess the good thing too is that because all of the support groups are open, you can kind of shop around as well and see. Because I know there's some families that they're not sure what stage their child might be in. So I think one of the benefits could be is that you can go to a couple of different groups and see kind of where you might fit in, or you feel like your child might fit in as well. Because there isn't a
Or
limit
even
to it, right? There isn't a limit to how many support groups people can go to.
No.
7 days a week or 5 days a week. And I do know some of them are like, even there's a couple that are daytime, and I know people try and do evening to accommodate work and stuff. So if anyone is watching and there's a specific time that works best for you, like if there's enough interest and enough people saying, hey, can we do this at this time, then that's something that we can help support with.
Absolutely. You can always reach out to support at interwovenconnections.ca or your peer connector if you know they are, to give any sort of feedback of like timing or topics or just different things. And we always like to brainstorm and meet the needs of the families, right? That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think some of them too, like there's been times where there's been like guest speakers. So this, again, not a topic list of questions, but like, what does a support group look like? Like, what does it, can you guys kind of go through, like, is it round robin? Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it drop-in style? Like, I'm wondering for someone who may not have ever been to one, like, can somebody share that a little bit?
I like to remind people, especially like 0 to 5, like because we do it after bedtime. I'm like, do not feel like you have to have makeup on or anything. I show up in my pajamas, usually with like a hot tea, like it's come as you are, like there's no pressure. When I host, it's pretty informal. I think all of us are pretty informal. We never take attendance or do little things like that. It's just kind of drop in when you can. For bigger groups, it depends on the size. Like sometimes you just have a couple people and you're able to have conversation like this and it flows. Bigger groups, like our AFCA group, tends to be a little bigger. So sometimes as moderators, we'll make sure that everyone has a chance to share, but typically it's pretty good. Yeah, I think Erin can share a bit more about her experiences running. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty similar. Usually we do kind of like a go around the Zoom room check-in sort of deal. That being said, I've had caregivers message me in advance, be like, I really am not up for talking tonight. I just want to be here and I just want to share space. So like, please don't call on me. So of course, there's never any obligation for you to engage or chat. But generally we go around and just kind of give a brief run through of kind of what's going on or what your family looks like. And then from there, conversation often just flows and it's easy enough to keep the ball rolling. Usually there's not, I mean, in August, often we'd be like, okay, we're going to chat about transition back to school, or, as we roll into December, okay, like how are you going to survive the Christmas holidays?
Yeah.
So maybe there's a loose topic, but for the most part, it's just kind of whatever people need in that moment.
That's good. It's good to be flexible to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and everything like that. Okay. Did I just lose my list of questions? I did. Okay. So just give me 1 second. For some reason, my document just closed. What do you think has been some of the benefits that you've seen from families forming, like going to support groups? Have you seen specific benefits? Have you seen connections or relationships or like resources? I'm just wondering, like, if you guys can talk a little bit more about some of the benefits of a support group.
Yeah, I think I've seen a huge benefit, especially for some of those families that come kind of consistently. Now they like know each other's names and they're like, oh, how's Johnny doing in kindergarten? Because we had a couple of families that we knew were about to start kindergarten. I think there's a much stronger sense of community. Having people kind of together, people are feeling seen and heard, meeting other families that kind of fit that same idea of their family or walking a similar path. I think there's been like a lot of benefits, especially like I said, for people that are kind of coming a little bit more consistently. There's always, things pop up. It's not that you have to be there every month, but I feel like after you come, a month or two, you're really starting to get a sense of who's there and building some of those online connections that sometimes transfer over to in-person connections, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And like many of us don't have people in our inner circles that get our adoption kinship journeys, right? They don't understand the certain complexities. So when you keep showing up to these meetings and meeting like-minded people and having those safe spaces to share it, you see the load lighten on people when they do use those spaces, because we carry that, right? Every day as parents, we're carrying the load of parenting, and not all parents do, but we just have uniqueness to our journey. Yeah.
And I think one of the cool and unique things with Interwoven Connections, and I can't talk about other support groups just because I don't know all of them, but like we're all in the boat that they're in as well. So it's that, I think that's why people tend to really enjoy and connect with it, because yes, we are professionals and we are moderating and hosting and making sure there's no shenanigans going on, but at the same time we're living it. And so I think part of that, the validation, I think, is really huge as well.
Yeah, I've heard that actually from other professionals who've tried to make those spaces, but then they feel uncomfortable because they're like, but I'm not an adoptive parent. I haven't lived, through adoption or kinship, customary care. They haven't lived that. So when parents do meet us, and then we're also sharing and, we're vulnerable too, because I enjoy the space as much as other parents as well. Like I love the connection. So I think that really helps build the safe space as much as other well-meaning professionals or organizations want to do that. It's harder when they haven't been directly touched by these parenting experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that we actually do have like a one-off group. Actually, it's moderated by a social worker in the UK named Al Coates, and it's a group specific for dads who are experiencing Afghan. It's like a 6 week, or I'll probably misspeak about it, but it's like a very specific kind of week. And that came out of specifically the dads are like, why is it all women? And we want to do this with a dad and someone that can have humor and can has experience with it. And so I think that's kind of the cool thing too, is that if we don't have the necessary experience, we're going to be bringing people in as much as possible to try and help fit that need as well.
Hmm.
So from your
And
experience, yes.
I will just say, Catherine, though, I've found lately, I do have a lot more dads coming, which is kind of cool.
That's amazing.
And that feels new to me. But just thinking back to like the last maybe 3 groups I hosted, I want to say there might have been more dads than moms.
You know
Yeah.
what? That's incredible. And it's
Yeah.
it's about time,
Yeah.
men and dads. People to come on. Actually, it was interesting. I was hosting the prospective parents for a couple times a few months ago, and there were some men in there, and I was like, this is amazing. Please don't stop coming. Like, we need your voice too, and your emotions and your feelings are valid and they matter. So I'm so glad to hear that you're kind of um seeing more engagement and more
Yeah.
coming. So amazing. Why do you think families tend to seek out support groups? I guess this is just from your experience, and I'm just wondering how these groups kind of positively have impacted. You've kind of touched on that a little bit, but I'm just wondering, like, how have you found like some of the reasons why families are seeking out these support groups?
Yeah, I think similarly, like I said before, like we have turned to the people in our lives and they don't get it. Like even myself, like you said, I'm a child of an adoptee. You'd think my family would get openness. They don't, because that wasn't a thing for my dad when he was adopted. So, talking about openness and that, like my family's like, okay. Like, and some are still like, I don't get it. You shouldn't do it, but you see the benefit and just all the different things that come with openness. It's a new family. Yeah, it's really nice to turn to people who get it and I can share and I'm a little more comfortable. Even some parts of my son's story, like we just keep a little hidden to the chest to other people who don't get it and or just, situations. So it's nice to be comfortable and um yeah, I think that's why a lot of people do turn to the groups just to get that feel seen, heard, and yeah.
Mhm.
Do you find families, and I think there's this like misconceptions that like it's like the families who are struggling or the families who are in crisis are the ones in the support groups. Do you find that, or do you find that it's kind of everybody of any walk in life?
Yeah.
I think it's everybody. I mean, I think there's certain spaces that maybe hold families that are struggling more than others. But certainly, no, I like there's lots of families that just kind of like book it into their schedule, right? And it's time that they've booked out of their day or their month, I guess, that they know that like, hey, this is where I'm going on this night. And I know I look forward to it too, especially like we have an in-person one in my area. And so it like I block that off and that is an exciting time. And you know, whether we're in crisis or not, I know that it's there.
That makes sense. Um, this is the big one for all type of support groups, especially for families, Christine, like you're mentioning, who have information that they want to keep private and that they want to make sure that they're respecting their child and youth's story. I'm wondering how groups like Ages and Stages maintain like some safety and trust of the members so that they do feel like they can openly. We talked about some of the struggles that families do talk about. We talk about the successes, but I'm just wondering, like, how is that maintained so that people do feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, so in all our support groups, like we always encourage people to have their cameras on because it's really hard when you're talking to a screen with a bunch of people with cameras off. And we understand why that sometimes happens. I've also turned my camera off in meetings because it's like all of a sudden my child runs in and something, and it's like, okay, I don't want my child, but we do at the beginning of support groups have a little confidentiality slide that goes up, and we just discuss kind of the agreement of the meeting. And a lot of it we do say similar to what you said today, Catherine, like how this is alive and, maybe don't share children's names or identifying. We do the same thing. Like, so people just share general information about their families. If they're comfortable to share their area, some are like, oh yeah, I'm in Western Ontario, so these supports are available, or I'm doing this, or like we're that sort of thing. If they want to, they can, but people don't have to share where they live. We encourage no names, no school information, like other than just like grade and that sort of thing, and maybe
Yeah.
any struggles. And families don't have to share any diagnoses. Like maybe you don't even know the diagnosis of,
Yeah.
if there is one, right? They can just share their struggles. And there's no prying, there's nothing that you have to share. So yeah, try to build that safe space.
That makes sense. And Erin, like you said, there's sometimes people are just like, I don't want to talk at all. Which I get because sometimes you get overtalked and you just don't want to have to talk anymore because you've answered a
Yeah.
million questions. I do just quickly want to share a comment that just came through on the live. I love hearing different perspectives from our community in the groups. It helps me um, step past what are sometimes emotional experiences and think of the various perspectives and considerations to make informed choices and decisions in my parenting. I think that's so true. Like there's so many times where you can bring up a situation where, and I see this even in our private Facebook, like our closed Facebook support groups, like people ask for suggestions or people share a situation, and we've had it that people are like, I'm not looking for solutions, I'm looking for space to vent, and that happens. But then you have people who are like, this is what I've done, like what would you do in this situation? I think it's always amazing to get to hear the different perspectives and to consider, like, how would so and so manage it. And I know, I still do this, like, is this a trauma, or is this an age appropriate thing, or is this a team pushing boundaries, or is this an adoption thing, or is this my kid being a pain in the what, or is this like a developmental thing? And so I think because we all have that kind of shared experience, it's kind of nice to see how others manage it. We're not going to
Mhm.
potentially all agree. Our parenting is always going to be different, but I think that's kind of what makes our community, is that everyone kind of shares and you can take what resonates with you or not. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that as well. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritties about our support groups. So what steps do families need to join one of our support groups? So say I am Joe Schmo, first time I'm seeing this live, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these incredible people. I want to be a part of their lives more. What does someone need to do to actually join the support group?
Yeah, it's actually pretty, I would say, pretty straightforward to get connected to the community. So you can go to our website, register online as a caregiver or as a prospective family. And then from there, someone like Christine or myself, one of our peer connectors, would reach out to you, schedule a time for a quick intake just to gather a little bit of information about your families and how we can best support you. And then from there, you're in the community. And so you can follow the Facebook, checking the website. We have like an event calendar on the website as well, so that you can see kind of when things are happening. I have some families that don't use Facebook at all, and so they just ask me to email them when a specific support group is coming, send them the link, anything like that. But yeah, really, it's just that registration, quick little intake, and then from there, it's not just the support groups that you get access to from there, but that's how you get the ball rolling. And usually it's done, like it can be done pretty quickly.
And is there a fee for any of this?
Nope, it's all
I knew
free.
the answer. I already knew.
Yeah,
Um,
everything, all of our supports and services and support groups are all free.
Yes, and the cool thing, like we had said, is that all of us are somewhere in the constellation of adoption, kinship, customary care, adoptee, youth and care. We're kind of all in that, whatever you want to call it, constellation together. But we all also have professional backgrounds, which is kind of nice because we can pull on each other's expertise in this. So we talked about what a group might look like. We talked about how to get into the group, but I'm just wondering, like, what does the flexibility look like for these support groups? Are they in person? Are they all virtual? Are they, you have to join and attend everyone? Like what does it kind of look like?
Yeah. So our groups are pretty flexible. The majority of the ones, especially the ones we mentioned, are virtual. Sometimes we do regional ones, but again, we're just a couple peer connectors across the whole province. So they're sometimes only in specific locations. We try our best, but you know, it's hard to put us everywhere. But yeah, most are virtual, and links are all found on our Facebook page, or you can ask your peer connector, like Erin said. There are certain groups that do need registration, but there's very few. Catherine, you mentioned the AFCA group for dads or dad identifying. That one would be a registration one, and it's, I think, once a month. You sign up for a certain time. There's also, we had mentioned the support group for older caregivers supporting kids with FASD. That one again is a registration one, but none of these require your attendance. You're not going to be booted out or penalized if you don't show up one month. Like, just let the moderator know maybe, and it's usually fine. And any resources shared that session might be sent to you. But like, even on our Facebook, we usually have events sharing about support groups. A lot of people say, like, I'm going to try to come, and if they don't show up, that's fine. We understand, like, life happens. All of a sudden you have a sick kid, or work gets too busy. We understand that. And even during support groups, like, you're able to drop in late, you're able to leave early. It's very flexible. Just if you're leaving early, like, whoever's running it knows, so we know, like, everyone's safe. And that's about it. But like, you're welcome to drop in and out. There's no attendance like that for most of the groups. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. We have lots of families that are like parked in a car while their kids at sports, or they've just dropped them off somewhere, or they just got out of the house and are sitting in their driveway so that nobody listens to what they're saying. So it's super flexible.
And like you said, casual, like,
yeah, totally.
Wherever, wear whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have a beverage and just come as you
Yes.
are. So that actually segues into other questions that I have that aren't on the list, but this is what I like to do. We talked about the virtual support groups. You talked a little bit about the events. I'm wondering what other type of things that we do and provide. So Snack and Chats obviously is a way for us to connect and talk about things that come up in the community, webinars. Do you guys know any of the more recent or upcoming events that are coming up in different areas? I know there's a potluck, I think, coming up next month in Ottawa. Christine, you did a zoo recently?
Erin did the zoo, but I have a farm adventure coming up.
Farm,
that's
it.
We still have a few more spots. So it's in close to Tiviadale, which is, kind of the middle of nowhere in Ontario, but in Wellington County, and it's just a farm tour. Honestly, you just have to be a member of Interwoven Connections to register. The information's on our Facebook and on our website. And registration is just so we know who's coming and names and that sort of information. It's not, yeah, it's not a big step or anything. And again, this is all free. We just wanted to have, family event, go to this farm, you get a tour, meet the farm animals. It's an organic dairy farm. So I think we get to see the process, and I believe we get some free ice cream.
Well,
I will demand, it
at
was
this
mentioned,
point,
and I'm going to make sure it happens.
it's public now, so
Yes.
sorry all.
And
It's
just,
free.
yeah, they have a wonderful play area for kids. And so, yeah, we have a few families coming out, so the kids will have a lot of fun together. But yeah, Erin had a really successful zoo visit. So
Yeah, we went to the Elmville Zoo, and it was kind of it's kind of in the middle of the central region, or like between the north and central. So it was open to the northern Ontario families and central Ontario families. And yeah, we spent the afternoon at the Elmville Zoo, and it was a blast. We wandered around, and I think I had this vision that we were all going to walk nicely together through the zoo and spend lots
Holding
of time together
hands.
chatting, right? No, the kids were like, I want to see the monkeys and I want to do this. But it was great. And then we'd like intersect at the paths, and we'd stop and chat. And yeah, it was a really, really nice day. I love when we're able to do those events.
And I know there's always like family day events where we all try and do something as well. And like you said, we are limited because we are a smaller community. There's not too many peer connectors, but we do try our best to do in person. And like even during COVID, I know we would do like story time and drop-ins. And one of my more favorite things to do as the engagement liaison is we've started a new weekly drop-in called As You Are, and it's posted live on our Raising Our Children Facebook group. And it's literally like a 15-minute, I'm telling you 100% of the time, I'm in my house robe, in my bed, my hair, you don't even want to talk about it. And we're just like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And it's kind of gotten a really good group of people, and it's just random, and it's just, how you feeling? What's going good? What's going not so good in your life right now? And it's just keeping it real, you know what I mean? Like things aren't always what social media time tells us what it should be. So this is really great, and we really try and listen. So if you guys have outing ideas too, please feel free to message your peer connector. And if someone wants to potentially host it, we're able to help support you with that as well, because we want this to be a community and engaging.
I was actually just going to say that, because I've had in some of our northern region, we did have caregivers basically act as a go-between for us. And so they go and as kind of our eyes and ears of the group, and then we're able to like find the space and invite the community members, and they just act as our kind of go-to person to help facilitate that. And it's, we have one that's hopefully open or starting in the Muskoka area fairly soon, because it's nice to have those in-person activities, but like we're saying, the peer connectors can't be all across the province. There's certainly not enough of us for that. But if that's something you're interested in or something that's important to you, absolutely reach out to the peer connectors, and we can help kind of try and facilitate that.
Exactly. Even for virtual support groups, we used to have it that it was parent-led or caregiver-led in the past. So I don't know if that's still an option, but it is something that you can definitely have a conversation about as well. Okay, we have like 4 minutes, so I'm going to go to the last question. What would you say to families who might be a little bit hesitant about joining a support group, or just even being a part of our community? If you have any advice or anything that you'd like to share to someone who might be a little bit hesitant or weary.
One thing that I often hear from parents, especially after intake, and many just say, I'm so glad I found you, or what took me so long, or like, where have you been in my life? After meeting and and realizing that we're the community and we get it and a safe space, it just feels very validating. Um, and if people are nervous, just know like we support you as flexible, whatever you need. Like we really can support you. Um, if you just want yearly check-ins or something and that's all you want in the Facebook community, that's great. Do that. If you want to join groups, like that's even more great. But you never really hear people regretting joining us. At least they haven't told us that. But you usually hear a sense of relief in families' voices, the parents, caregivers, when you're chatting after the intake, or even in support groups. Like some people come in and they just like, you can see that heavy look, but by the end, they have a smile on their face, right? So usually you just kind of see those little differences.
Absolutely. And especially if they
Yeah.
get free ice cream for events, like,
Yeah.
but the 2 for 1. So I want to thank you ladies so much for joining. I threw some random questions and you guys just are smooth and I appreciate it. I always love having an opportunity to talk to you, regardless of whether this is a formal snack and chat or not. So I appreciate you guys taking your lunch hour and pulling over in the middle of the hour to chat with us. We do have the next few months of snack and chats up on our website. So if like Erin was saying, you go to our events page, check out what we have going on. Next month, we actually have one of our AFCA clinical leads, and we're going to be talking about lessening the impacts of judgment for families who are experiencing AFCA. So if you're not too sure what AFCA is, it's all up on our website. What I'm going to do as well is in the comment section below, I'm going to put both a link to our events calendar so you guys can check it out, whether you're watching it live or on replay, and also a link to join our community because like we said, like, you know, joining it doesn't mean you have to be getting calls every day and have to be involved, but at the same time, we're here for when you need it. And if you want to share the joys and the challenges, like this is what we came for. Interwoven didn't exist when I adopted, and I just feel so honored to be able to support people in their journeys in my little way. So ladies, I appreciate you both. Thank you so very much. If other questions come up, if you guys are watching this, please feel free to message us, go onto Facebook, write in the comments, or email us on our website because we are always available for you. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you later. Bye.